Hello and welcome to Big Red Journeys. I'm your host Big Red, and on today's journey we're going to take a tour of Old Town San Diego. The State Historic Park is full of history, living history as well too. There's museums, shops, vendors, restaurants, and a bunch of fun to be had. So we're going to try to do as much as we can here and have a great time. So if you care to follow me on this journey, let's go. Here's a map that's going to give you a good bird's eye view of where we're going to be visiting. Keep in mind, some of these may be open, some may be closed. We don't know. It's been a while since I've been here, but this is the layout of where we're going to be. So this is going to be the main State Historic Park area that most people, when they think of Old Town, this is what it's going to be at. You're going to see a collection of old houses, some newer, some historical, some recreations. Down over in that left corner over there where they're playing Righteous Brothers, we got an ice cream shop, a Blue Lotus, silver jewelry, fine gifts, and restaurant Casa de Maria. To the left is Gumsan, or Gumsan, I forget how it's pronounced, but they are purveyors of Asian items, Asian inspired. So you're going to get things like crystals, Tibetan Nepalese imports, see right here according to the sign, singing bowls, imported statues and jewelry and whatnot. Because just like with all Western cities, there was a pretty large presence of those of Asian descent or Asian immigrants. There's this one store we've been noticing. There's two stores, this one and the one, that gray one over there. They used to have shops in them, but now they're closed. This one in particular was one of my favorite. It had a bookstore in it, and it appears to be closed. And then some of the buildings are going to have not only just a shop, but those have maybe possibly a little museum inside of them. I know that the Big Bazaar building over there has a little museum that we'll go into a little bit later. This is the birthplace of the San Diego Union, October 10th, 1868. Oldest daily in Southern California, declared to be a historic site in journalism. Oh, that's pretty nifty in here. Look at that. Oh, old printing presses. Now, chances are these are probably old and authentic original pieces. That's pretty cool. They got a safe right there. Beautifully decorated too. The Cincinnati Safe and Lock Company. Look at that. Very beautifully hand painted. One of my other favorite stores here is the Casa de Pedro Rena de Altamirano. In other words, it's a miner's gem, rock, fossils, and jewelry. They always have some pretty cool ambers, pieces, fossils, and coprolites, my favorite. And most of these items are for sale. They usually have a price tag to them. Some are not. Those will be listed as not available. But all of these are available to take home with you. Got some nice megalodon teeth right there. Wonderful pieces of petrified wood. That's pretty. Look at. Like I said, history everywhere. Here's some examples of some miners' hats. You can see how they would put a little bit of kerosene or oil or something inside with a wick for the flame. There's an example of the gentleman properly wearing one. I'm not going to show you every single store. That would just be too much, overwhelming. But I'm going to show you some of my favorites and tell you what's in each side, inside of each of the stores. So at least you are well educated on your visit here to Old Town, including El Centro Artesano. You can see they have lots of Mexican style pots. You got sundials, decorative art pieces. You got chimeneas too, very pretty. So very beautiful artisan pieces. They have the make your own candle station. You can actually take one of the blank waxes right over there and just dip them into the color waxes. There's one right there being done with the little kitty. And they do have some wonderfully smelling soaps and shower spritzers and a whole bunch of stuff. And the store just smells lovely in general when you need a breath of fresh air. Well, you can even make your own little colorful sea salt right there. They got pre-packaged bottles or do a little bit of all these different California Dream and citrus. Ooh, that does smell good. San Diego Sassy Surfer. I know a few sassy surfers. So you take whatever shape or animal or creature you like. There's a unicorn, a sunflower. Ooh, perfect for Old Town. A skull, a calavera. That's pretty cool. And then you just take it and go into the wax, which is over here, and just dip it one time over in the various colors. As you can see, there's what is there, 10 colors to choose from. Continuing down past the candle shop, to the right is La Casa de Estudio, a very prominent socialite gentleman. That was his actual house, and we're going to go inside in a second, but we'll continue onward here to the left. Some of these museums may be closed, some of them may be open. It really just depends on what time of year that they are open, because right now we're here in early February, and typically that's not really touristy season. But inside this one, you can see that there's a history. They got looms, they got wool. They show you kind of the old version way of making fabrics and materials. But you also do have this opportunity. You want to take a look inside when they are closed. They got these QR codes which you can scan. I'll leave it right here. You can scan and get a 360 view of what it looks like inside. Who doesn't love some good candy? Cousin's Candy Shop is right over here. Now it's got a little bit of a mix of the old school candies and new school candies. You can always see some fresh taffy being made here and rolled. They're going to have the ones you can scoop by the bag and weigh it by the quarter pound. They got some classic fudge over there, my favorite. President Reagan's favorite, Jelly Bellies. You ever had these fruit barrels like at a doctor's office? This one and the ones that were the shape of like a strawberry. They have the strawberry wrapper. Oh, right here, look at that. I speak of it. Every dang doctor's or dentist's office had these candies, I swear. Now the two next buildings are pretty cool. This is the original San Diego Courthouse, City Hall, and a special surprise behind it, the first jail. So we'll go inside here. Oh, it's been updated since the last time I've seen it. This was not here beforehand, but this is Judge Witherby's chair, his desk. That's Judge Witherby right there behind him. Of course, you have to have the president. And I mean, they did do some hangings around here. Now what's pretty cool about a lot of these old buildings is that when they've redeveloped them, when they moved them, when they reconstructed them, sometimes they'd actually find human artifacts in the ground below them. So you got examples right here, an old silver spoon, a U.S. half dime from 1858, a sarsaparilla bottle, look at that. Old bowl pipes made out of clay or wood. You got fused glass, original adobe brick. I mean, look at all the cool little antiques that they have here. Here's a replica of Joshua Bean, the first mayor of San Diego. This is his office. Representation of San Diego's first sheriff, Agustin Harasti, first sheriff of County San Diego, who also was a Jewish immigrant. Why would the sheriff be right there? Well, that's because that's the jail cell. Original, but it's the second one. I made a mistake earlier. This is actually the second jail. You can see it's a one-person jail, but imagine, I'm sure if they arrested a few guys, they would have to put 2 or 3 inside of there. But the original one was built somewhere in San Diego, more down in 2nd Avenue. That was made with rock and brick. That one, unfortunately, was demolished or destroyed. And this one still stands. Looks pretty good, just needs a little WD-40. The smell, unmistakable smell of a fine cigar here at Racino Laramie's Fine Cigars. And yes, you can still smoke inside this place. Adobe walls that they try to replicate as well as they can. But just, I wish there was smell-o-vision. Some people may not enjoy it. I personally do. Next is the old commercial restaurant, La Casa de Machado y Silvas, a small adobe built by the Machado family for their daughter, Maria Antonia, and husband Jose Antonio Nazacio Silvas. Several businesses, including a saloon, restaurant, were operated in this building. That's the restaurant back in those doors right here, but this would be the actual dining area, possibly saloon area as well too. Very nice. Poker games going on at the moment. Well, an unfortunate little update that I found out, because I did talk to the sheriff, aka someone who works at the Racine and Laramie smoke shop, but he was telling me that unfortunately the bookstore, the apothecary store, that was the one that was the gray building on the corner, as well as unfortunately one of my favorite shops that I was going to show you was the tin shop in this building, and unfortunately they just have not recovered from COVID and they are gone, unfortunately. So that's a shame. This was a very beautiful one. I'll take a look to see if I have any photos. I don't know if I do, but I'll insert them here right now. But it was a beautiful shop that had, you know, like tin art in regards to like chandeliers and candles and mirrors. It was just so beautiful in there. Well, adding insult to injury, put the salt on the wound. I was going to take you into Tafoya & Son Dealer and Pottery and the coffee and herb and spices from around the world for a wonderful, delicious cup of iced tea. But based upon what I'm seeing here with these windows, I think they're boarded up as well too. If you continue on a little bit further past the cigar shop and the formerly the tea shop, first of all, there are some restrooms right over there, so easily accessible. But continue on a little bit further and you go into the McCoy House. No relation to the Hatfields and McCoys. But it was actually Sheriff James McCoy's house with his wife Winifred. Came to San Diego in 1849 after serving in the U.S. Army. Irish-born immigrant, fluent in Spanish, believe it or not. Also a good note here for those who are visiting San Diego, and if you don't have transportation yourself, you didn't rent a car, you're in downtown or maybe Mission Valley, the trolley station literally drops you off. There's the trolley station right there. It literally drops you off on the front door of the McCoy House, which of course leads right into Old Town. So Robinson Rose House, this is going to be your visitor center for Old Town. Here they have some of the Old Town employees, free park information. Of course it is historic and it talks a little bit about the park, the museum itself inside here, and as well as of course it is a gift store. Here's a wonderful example of what Old Town would have looked like many moons ago. There's the Robinson House that we're currently at right now. There's the Cannon Flag Park in the middle, Casa de Estudio over there, the Cosmopolitan Hotel. So just left the Visitor Information Center, the Robinson Rose building, and got some more unfortunate news because we were wondering like what the status was with some of these buildings. And yes, indeed, some of the buildings I've already mentioned, they are closed, they're gone, they went out of business, the leases were too high, and they're currently looking for people to take those buildings up. But we did find out that the museums themselves, like the stable, the Casa de Estudio, and just in general all the museum buildings, now unfortunately there's not even a guarantee of when they're going to be open. So they are supposed to, it's based upon staffing. If they have enough staff, they will open them. But for example, we're here on a Sunday, and they should be open, but they didn't have enough staff, so the stable is not open, so we can't go inside of it, unfortunately. But that, just keep that in mind, that especially at least during this off season right now, there's no guarantee of what is and what isn't available for you. Hopefully things will pick up in the springtime, and of course during the summertime, when of course that's a huge bit of tourism here in San Diego. But as a San Diego native and someone who has loved Old Town since the day I was born, I'm honestly getting a little concerned here. I'm seeing a lot of closures, a lot of former businesses gone, and I get it. It is the way of the world sometimes, but it's heartbreaking. Now I'm starting to get to think that, is Old Town going to stay open much longer? Who knows? Here is a Sealy stable, a very large stable. It's going to have a collection of old carriages, livestock equipment. This really represents San Diego and California. It's agricultural livestock heritage. To the right of it, open, is the donkey corral and some historic carriages. So let's make lemonade out of lemons. Hey little guy, how you doing? So they do have a little back area over here. They got this wonderful windmill. But they do have a few carriages. Some are going to be actual authentic, like they're going to be old pieces. Some are just replicas. Oh, the blacksmith shop is still open. Let's go check that out in a second. Over here is a few carriages that are in a shed. Some of them are a little more fragile than others, so they have to keep them well protected. Well, there's an old stagecoach right over there. I don't know if you can tell. Bright yellow on the coloring. Stanhope buggy right in front of us. Another buggy to the left. A wonderful example here of adobe, the corner of a wall. I don't know, maybe this is part of a reconstruction to make a modern adobe building. Let's go check out the blacksmith. And they do actually, these are all volunteers, people who enjoy the blacksmithing trade. And let's see, oh, that's pretty cool here. Look at this.
Heat it up. So the degree that we want it at is 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. And once we get to that, we're able to shape the metal over something like an anvil by striking it, or detail it with that chisel. Now, in order to fire really hot, we have to use a bellow, and this is a much...
Got the old Cosmopolitan Hotel and Restaurant. Unfortunately, the restaurant part is no longer open, but the hotel is still available for you to spend the night here. And I believe this was Casa de Bandini's house, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a gentleman by the name of Bandini. I'll put his first name here. But this was his building. It was a hotel as well too, so it's back to its original roots. But it is claimed to be haunted. They even did a episode of Ghost Adventures here, where they were calling out to Senor Bandini in his saloon, and apparently he was a partier and liked to revel with his guests. One day I think I want to stay here. The Johnson House. Foreign and domestic finery, fancy goods, haberdashery, and millineries. Ooh, there's lots of fancy apparel in this place right there. I feel underdressed. The Kosei Kumiai Market. It's a nice, wonderful center here. They do actually sell some handmade goods from those of the Kumiai and surrounding tribes, who of course were the first people here of San Diego region. Very nice. Lots of artisanal items here, so beautiful. La Casa de Estudio Museum. Wonderful little ranchera style house with a large courtyard in the front. So again, it's going to be built, you know, ranch style, where you're going to have beautiful fountain property here in the middle, and living quarters, kitchen and whatnot are all around in a square quadrant. This would have been Don Jose Antonio Estudillos and Dona Maria Victoria Dominguez de Estudillos' bedroom. Relatively large. Of course, beautiful adobe walls. Keep the heat in and the cold out, and vice versa during the warmer days. So it looks like this would be his office area here. Estudillo was a very wealthy businessman here, so this would have been his desk where he could have done some office work. Or he drew his women, you know, on the couch right there, Titanic style. Oh, a wonderful look into the dining room here. So here's an example of the children's room here with some freaky looking dolls here. Don't move, don't you dare move on me. Now we got the beds here. I believe they had a total of, I think, like 11 children, something like that. Here is a general store that was actually rented out by Paul Rodriguez, Francisco de Paul Rodriguez. As it would happen, usually sometimes they would make businesses out of the buildings of some of the wealthier people here. So this gentleman was a entrepreneur and decided to go into business and rent out this little space here. The best part of all of houses, the kitchen. And this is where they would be cooking their foods. Something that's very interesting here, the chair used by Helen Hunt Jackson while writing the very famous book Ramona. So for those who don't know, the city of Ramona, which is just outside of San Diego by about 45 minutes to an hour, was named for that very book. And the Estudillo house was famous because in the book, the setting, I didn't read the book personally, but the setting, or where Ramona was house, her marriage place, was the Casa de Estudillo, or at least inspiration from. So here's a good picture from 1910 to 1964. A lot of tourists will come to this area thinking this was Ramona's marriage place. And there's a chair of when she wrote it. And a common room that was used for many things, everything from greeting guests, having parties, dances, get-togethers, including church service. So this is an example of, obviously again, most people that were in this area were of the Catholic faith, and religion was very important to the Estudillos, so they would pray and worship pretty much every day. Well, in the early days there was no church, so they actually would use this as the church. So, you know, as the sign says, sometimes the priests will perform wedding baptism memorial services here in the sala. Keep going on beyond the old jail. You got something that'll hopefully keep you out of jail, is a school. So the Mason Street School, this was actually San Diego's first publicly owned school, a one-room wood frame shingle roof structure with a 10-foot high ceiling. In 1873, the school was moved to Taylor and Whitman Streets, and a two-story school was then erected there. It was later razed, and the original school was returned and reconstructed on this site. You can see, look, got the benches there. They didn't even have desks, they just had the old school benches. The school marm would be up there in the front. We'll pledge allegiance right there to the flag. The Old Town Plaza, laid out as the center of the Pueblo of San Diego, established in 1834, called La Plaza de las Armas. Well, that's because they actually would have cannon in here as well too, both ceremonial and as well as for real use. So the original site, they put the little fortress on Presidio Hill in this area. We're a little bit of an elevated above San Diego Bay, but they put this as a fortress stronghold so that the soldiers can clearly see into San Diego Bay and see if there was any sort of attacking ships coming in. And they built a fortress right here. And then a few months later, Father Junipero Serra created the first mission here, which then later ended up moving down Mission Valley about 3 or 4 miles that away, when the friars were getting into a little bit of a, not a skirmish, but a little bit of a disagreement with the uncivilized soldiers who were not being true Christians, let's just put it that way. So they decided to move, but stay close to a water source, which is the San Diego River. Make sure to stretch before you go on this part. There's a lot of climbing of stairs here. You can just admire the Spanish architecture here. So like I said, this is not how the actual Presidio did look. A little, what is it, amalgamation of different architecture. There is a chapel in well there. The beautiful tower that overlooks all of San Diego Bay. A lot of photos are taken here. Wedding photos, quinceañera, prom photos. But with this view, you can see how the Spanish really liked being up top of this hill, because look at all into San Diego Bay. Obviously SeaWorld and those buildings weren't there, but look at the view. They can really see a nice panoramic view from atop this hill. Obviously these trees weren't here, but nowadays it's a museum to learn a little bit about San Diego's history, talk about the Spanish, the Franciscan friars that came here. What was that? That's a wine press. Very nice. From the Spanish island of Mallorca, which is Saint Junipero Serra's birthplace. Interesting. Yeah. Just like with most of these museums, they are free. They're part of the San Diego History Center. They just ask for a little bit of a donation to help keep these activities alive. A nice expansive hallway here. This was at one point a chapel that was used for services when the replicated Presidio was rebuilt. Now it's a little bit more of an empty hallway, but they got these videos from actually some of the local native tribe leaders that talk about the history of San Diego prior to the Spanish coming in. Here's an example of what the Presidio did possibly look like based upon architectural historical records. You can see this is the current building that we're in right now, or I say the replicated version of it, but you can see how there would be barracks, sleeping quarters, kitchen, galleys, armaments, a huge adobe style wall on 4 sides. And this of course became a settlement for the Spanish to have their foothold here in California. Now to the second level, this is just to the bottom of the tower that we're climbing up right now. Some more about the history. This is more of like the reconstruction of the second Presidio, the one that we're currently in right now. William Templeton Johnson, the architect of the current Presidio. So now we're here at the top of the tower. Look at that westward view into San Diego Bay. Looking a little bit northbound into San Diego. You got the north part of Mission Bay heading into Mission Beach, La Jolla at the very tippy over there. Beautiful USD campus. And looking eastward. So there's Mission Valley Mall and a lot of the hotels, Auto Circle, all the stuff over there. And then a little bit further past the 805 freeway, you would see the new, or I should say the current mission site when Junipero Serra left the Presidio Fortress to create the San Diego Mission de Alcalá. So if you haven't noticed by now, the Presidio Museum site is not very ADA friendly, unfortunately. Lots of stairs on the second level, so you have to be able to maneuver your way up the stairs. This building, of course, was built before ADA laws, and unfortunately, it's historic, and I don't think there's any way for them to actually make it ADA compliant. And of course, even getting up here, there is a parking lot out the front. Again, admission is completely free, but you still have to find your way around to get here if you have to maneuver by a wheelchair or have limited mobility. And to get a good bird's eye view, they do have a 360 camera down below that I'll show you real quick. And that is for those who need to have one of you, but can maybe because of mobility issues. And here is, like I said, because there are so many stairs, it's really not ADA compliant or accessible for certain people with mobility needs, but they do have a wonderful camera angle right here. The Tower Vista, this shows a 360 view of San Diego. It just rotates around and around. So now we're gonna go into probably the main touristy area of Old Town, which is the Fiesta de Reyes. This is also gonna be where you're gonna find a large collection of restaurants, specialty shops, and a whole bunch of goodness. Let's see if we can catch some live music as well too. But you're gonna have, there's this restaurant over here, Barra Barra. You're gonna have even people selling like tamales and nuts, candied nuts, elotes. Ooh, one of my favorite places to go to is Temecula Olive Oil Company. Temecula, of course, being nearby to San Diego, not too far away, about an hour's out into Riverside area. And they do have a little tasting room as well as the ability to buy spices and oils. So we'll go inside there in a second. So again, not only is it a local company here, but they make some delicious olive oils. I've had quite a few varieties here in my life. They have this spicy one that's really good. And there's one that's like a garlic balsamic to die for. That's one of them right there, roasted garlic. Worth its weight in gold, trust me. So, we tried a few delicious olive oils and balsamics. Ended up getting the Mediterranean balsamic with a apple honey cider vinegar. It was just delicious, good combo. Good on their own, but great, even better together. So, looking forward to that. So the reason it's called Fiesta de Reyes, you know, Party of the Kings, is because there actually is a restaurant called Casa de Reyes over there, and they have a bunch of these stores around there in their little Rancho Zocalo area. Looks like there's a musical act about to come up here very shortly. We'll listen to them for a second. But not only do they have restaurants, there's a few more behind as well too, including like Casa de Guadalajara. But they got all these lovely stores. We were just seeing the Temecula Olive Oil Company, wonderful store. We got handcrafted items, Mexican style souvenirs, a hot store, the Crazy Pepper hot sauce and chiles. But you name it, they got it here. They got the huarache sandals. They got the chipitulcos, the Mexican Baja hoodies as they call them, the little bags. Even a towel shop and art. So beautiful here. That is a very accurate statement for me. They do have a couple of little vendors here. Street tacos, 2 tacos for $9 or nachos for $10 if you want to pick up something quick instead of waiting potentially in line for one of the Mexican restaurants. But a staple of Old Town is the freshly handmade tortillas. And there's a stand right over here that sells hot made tortillas. Let's see if we can get some. This is one of 2 locations. This one right here, the Fiesta de Reyes. There's another one that's in front of Cafe Coyote on Old Town. We'll be passing that a little bit later. That's on like the one street that goes into the Old Town State Park. But hot, fresh. Can't get better than this. It does need a little butter or maybe like a little jam in there too, but delicious. Warm, hot, and they're free, usually 1 per person. Give them a little tip, like $1 or 2 per tortilla. But the whole point is they try to get you in because you taste how good they are and they're like, I want some more tortillas, and you go into the restaurant and eat instead. So delicious. So this would probably be one of the few shops that I definitely would recommend to come in here because they have a very large variety of items for sale. And if you are a fan of Day of the Dead, Dios Muertos, Coco, Frida Kahlo, they have it here too. And you'll see why I say what I said. See, lots of the crosses, Dios Muertos style, got the marigolds, so beautiful. And shout out to one of my friends, the fine art of David Lozo. Here in San Diego, I have a few of his pieces, but he's so cool because he mixes skeleton, Dios Muertos, kind of dead with life at the same time too, depicting real scenes. The Old Town Jerky and Root Beer Company. This is a place I absolutely love because look at the variety of sodas, sarsaparilla, root beer that they have, a wide array of jerkies as well too, beef and exotic. And for those who don't eat meat, why would you? But hey, we all make mistakes. They got vegetarian. So here's a portobello jerky for you guys. But they got sticks with kangaroo meat, maple duck, wild boar, ostrich, venison, elk. If it can be dried, they can make it. And it's always nice to just come in here and grab a cold one here. I always like to see if there's a new variety that I haven't tried and be like, oh, that's a good one. That sounds nice. They do have regular sodas, strawberry, all different types of flavors. Jarritos, of course, root beer, sarsaparilla, and ranch dressing soda. Okay, that's enough for today. Well, you know I could not resist this root beer. Just look at the name. I had to get it. And let's try some Dragon's Breath, some sweet garlic hot jerky. Hidden gem over here in the corner tucked away, Rose's Tasting Room, local wines and microbrews. I've had a few craft beers here. It's a wonderful little place to get some drinks. A little tasting room over here where you can enjoy yourself. They got little flights of beers and wines you can do. Of course, alcohol related decorations that you can buy. A little chocolate in life is worth living for. And this nibble chocolate, they do chocolate the old original way here. So this chocolate is not going to be as sweet as chocolate you've had, but the chocolate they have is grown in Brazil, Dominican Republic, Madagascar, Peru, and they're a little bit more on the dark chocolatey side of things. They do have a couple milk chocolate, but they're all going to be more that bittery style chocolate, original chocolate. This tile shop is so fun because not only do they have some beautiful tiles, but they have quite a few funny ones which are just hilarious. Everyone knows the mi casa es su casa. But truthfully, mi casa es mi casa. The wonderful smell of leather. Seriously, anytime you walk into a place like this with leather, it's always a wonderful smell. Kind of on the southern end of the park, you got San Diego Old Town Market, another collection of stores and vendors, selling a lot of the similar items we've already seen so far. Everything that's Mexican or Southern or Latin American culture inspired. Obviously some authentic items as well too. Also every so often they will have performers here on the stage, musical acts and dancing acts as well too. And this is pretty cool, a clear see-through transparency. You can see the original foundation of the Casa de Aguirre, which is where we're in right now. This is the actual area where this market is held at. Of course, get a nice caricature artwork there. There's one lovely couple getting their face painted. In the back of the store, they got a little small museum, El Museo Casa de Aguirre, and they got a lot of artifacts and remnants left over from when the house was first built. Look at all the wonderful glass and bottles there, pipes, horseshoes, vases. That looks like a chamber pot right over there. Adobe, bones from animals that they've eaten before in the past. Of course, religious artifacts here from Señora Rosario Aguirre. Some children's shoes and marbles and toys. Looks like some hygiene kits right there. A comb, razors. Continuing on, we're going to go down to San Diego Avenue. There's going to be a continuation of stores, restaurants, markets. We got the Church of the Immaculate Conception over here. This church is involved when they do a lot of ceremonies here for Dia de los Muertos, as well as during Christmas time here. But this is a main strip that you're going to find a lot of other restaurants, a lot of stores. Again, with a lot of the same souvenir items that we saw in some of the other stores. So this is one thing that's unfortunate about Old Town. Wonderful, beautiful area. But a lot of the stores are selling the same souvenir stuff over and over and over again. And I've seen this progress throughout the years. It's starting to get to the point like when you go to like Cannery Row, in Monterey Bay, or if you go to like the Seaport Village here in San Diego, or some of the other high heavy tourist areas, they just start selling the same items over and over and over again. There's no real uniqueness between the stores sometimes, unfortunately. So it is what it is, because people obviously sell certain items, they work, and it happens. But we're still making the best of it. So now we're at the crossroads of Harney and San Diego Avenue, and I'm going to stop here for a couple reasons. One is, if you go up Harney Avenue and go, you see the car that's all the way over there at the end. If you take a slight left, that's where the Mormon Battalion Museum is. It's just worth mentioning. It is sponsored by the Mormon Church, but there was a battalion of Mormon men who actually came from Utah during the Spanish-American War and made it to California, but never fought during the time because they arrived too late for the war. Long story short, but it's down that way. And to the right is the Soho Save Our Heritage organization. They have a collection of old Victorian buildings just to the right. We'll see if we can get up there a little bit later. They'll probably be closed by the time we get there. But they have things like little tea houses, women's haberdashery store, pretty cool. But to the right is probably, for many, the main star of Old Town, and that is America's most haunted house, the Whaley House. I have been here many times. I personally have experienced a phenomenon that can't be explained. They do offer daily tours for the most part, and during getting close to the Halloween time, they also do nighttime tours, so it's really fun. We'll have to do that this upcoming Halloween time. But the Whaley House, built by Thomas Whaley, oldest brick structure in California, and it served as a courtroom, it served as a general store, it served as a theater, believe it or not. At the very top over there, there's actually a full-blown theater. It was San Diego's first theater. There's the visitor center there for the Whaley House. They have a gift shop there where also we can purchase tickets when they're available. But here is the courtyard of the Whaley House. There have been stories of people walking here late at night and seeing people in the windows that really weren't people. But back in the area over here, this is where they would actually have some hangings. So they actually took wood from the rafters of the gallows and used it in the construction of the house. But one of the most famous of all people who died here, who was tried and hanged for stealing a boat, of all things, was Yankee Jim. And he is buried at the El Campo Cemetery, which we'll be visiting here a little bit later. But this is sometimes you get a little bit of a spooky vibe when you come here to the Whaley House. Ghost Adventures have been here. Regis Philbin did a show here one time too. He stayed overnight and couldn't stay the whole night. Many ghost hunters have done experiments and activities here. I don't know if we can really see through the lace of the windows there. Nope, nothing good there. But we'll definitely have to do a journey here at some point. Oh, here we go. We can see this is the kitchen from what I remember. Yeah, this is the kitchen. So this would actually be one of the areas where they're prepping the food, and then it would actually go into the dining room, as you can see right over there. And here is the Whaley House holding cell, which of course, remember, this was a courthouse. So this is where they would have the convicted or potentially convicted as they would go in and walk into the courthouse. And there it be. I'll try to insert some photos of the inside of what the Whaley House looks like here. Well, that's something worth noting. So this is a replica of what the original jail cell looked like here. This was a second one, or replica. The second one was placed here because the first one, made of stone and cobblestone, was torn away, and the second one was the one we saw earlier behind the sheriff's office. The world famous Cafe Coyote. I personally have had the food here. I would say it's mid-Mexican, to be honest with you, but it is world famous. I would say it's more world famous for the hot tortillas that come fresh. So correction, I just found out, so the tortillas here at Cafe Coyote are not free no more. They're $1 a tortilla, which isn't too bad. I mean, that's fine for a good tasting tortilla. But they do have, buñuelos and chicharrones. That sounds good. But what I was going to say about the Mexican food in Old Town in general, Old Town Mexican food, to be honest with you, is what I like to say tourist Mexican food. And by that I mean a lot of the items are going to lack a little bit of flavor, a little bit of seasoning, and they're definitely not going to be homemade. Like the beans are just going to be beans, but there's no like lard or flavor added to it. The rice is going to be a little bland. Carne asada is not going to be spicy. So if you're somebody who likes very strong, robust flavors, honestly, Old Town food is not the best. It's good, but not the best. There's a few Mexican restaurants that are, 5-10 minutes south of here that are going to be much better. I would recommend to you. But in a pinch, You know, it gets people here. It's enjoyable. They usually have mariachis or guys playing guitars or violins or something. It's a fun time, don't get me wrong. But if I had to eat here, the only reason I would honestly eat here is because somebody's from out of town and I'm showing them Old Town San Diego and they want to eat because it looks cool. New to Old Town, Society Brewing Company has a tasting room over here, right across the way from Churchill Cigars. I've had their cigars, very good cigars. A couple other restaurants here. There's Jack and Guido's Italian restaurant. There is an Indian restaurant that was over there. I don't know if it's still around. There's Don Pietro, which always has the pretty purple tree lights. And then across the way was the Sheriff's Museum, which was actually a wonderful museum, but COVID kind of hit it really hard. And it talked about the sheriff history in San Diego. They had squad cars and helicopters and a jail, and it was so cool. But I guess, speaking of dead things, right across the way is El Campo Cemetery. And yes, that is an actual cemetery. And not only that, but here's a spooky little tidbit I'm about to show you guys right now in a second. So you got the El Campo Santo Cemetery. And yes, people really are buried here. But look towards the ground. And let's see if we can find, oh, speaking of one, there's one right there. You see that, what it says there? Grave site. Because yes, indeed, that is actually someone's grave is underneath there, 6 feet under. So this plaque here shows it very well. So they actually exhumed a lot of the bodies. So this original area wasn't, it was the original cemetery, this whole spot. The streets, San Diego Avenue was essentially paved over it. They exhumed only one of the bodies, but left 20 men and women and children still buried. Only Assemblyman Edward L. Green was exhumed and placed within the actual El Campo Cemetery. But then you can see some of the markings where there are other ones. So right now we're literally just to the left of the gate. And you can see all the little spots where they were able to track and see that there were some spots still buried. Of course, El Campo Santo means the holy field, as most people feel that cemeteries are holy ground. And yes, these rocks and markings do represent actual people. Ooh, she was 108 years old, Juliana Cornelia. Wow, long life, long life. The most famous of all the people here is, of course, Yankee James W. Robinson, Yankee Jim. He was the one that was hanged over at the Whaley House. Well, that's going to do it for today's journey here at Old Town San Diego. I had a great time. I hope you did as well too. Apparently I had too much of a good time. They decided to lock me up here, so I'm waiting my court date there. Hopefully it'll be soon. It's a little cold right now. But until then, do me a huge favor, give it a big thumbs up to this video. Second, subscribe to the channel. Third, hit the notification bell. Of course, follow me on social media at BigRedJourneys. And I'll see you on the next journey, probably in about 10 to 20 years. Hopefully sooner with good behavior. Bye-bye now.